Welcome to this FinGraphs market overview. Today we will consider the rebound on equities as well as the euro, dollar, yen and gold. We will start with the S&P futures, here on the longer term basis on a weekly basis. Our weekly chart is still in a downtrend over the next few quarters, and at the moment this downtrend is only a correction, it's labeled in grey. So long as we remain above these corrective targets, meaning 1678, we will not and cannot confirm a full-fledged bear market. So at the moment, it's a correction. It's quite a strong correction since the second quarter last year, but it's only a correction. So correction down on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, or one update every day, we're still in a downtrend despite the strong reaction up that we've seen since mid-February. This reaction up may be coming into important resistance around this 2000 mark here, which served as support back in the fourth quarter last year and as a resistance in the rebounds in last August and last September. The targets down could lead us over the next few months below 1800 again, possibly in extreme cases below 1700. So despite the rebound, the daily is still in a downtrend and we're reaching important resistance as we speak. The daily has seen a handsome reaction. This reaction up is slowly getting into its own impulsive up targets, which were labeled between 1987 and 2042. There might be a few days left here. You can see that the risk index is not yet overbought. To sum it up, we have a long-term correction down on the weekly, an impulsive move down on the daily, and a bull up on the hourly. This is labeled as the reaction up from an intermediate bottom, which is still in a downtrend. Now flicking to the euro, which is going to be in the spotlight this week with the ECB press conference on Thursday. Over the weekly chart, we are still in a longer-term downtrend. We had a very strong move between early 2014 and early 2015, and since then we've been in a sideways move which has been very choppy. Yet we believe that the longer-term downtrend is still in place, and it could lead us over the next few quarters down into the below 107 again and possibly below parity. Now looking at the daily chart has seen a very strong correction since Draghi spoke in December, and we can see that this correction follows a quite typical corrective pattern. Now we are attempting to resume the downtrend. We've reached this support resistance zone again and are currently seeing a bounce, but in essence the possibility of moving lower again, possibly into 103 to parity, is feasible over the next few months. Now looking at the hourly chart, we could see that it is also still in a downtrend. At the moment, the reaction up last week hasn't really been able to turn this trend. We may see a bit of work here over the next few days. The ECB press conference is coming on Thursday. If it is actually deceives, you may see a reaction up materializes. But in essence, the trend is telling us that Draghi may fulfill on his promises this time. If that is the case, we can see the euro move over the next week or so down below 108 again, possibly into the 106 level. So with three bears, it is a potential continuous downtrend at the moment on the euro. Now looking at the yen. The yen, this long-term chart, the weekly chart, is also in a correction down, quite similar to what we've seen on the S&P 500. The yen is basically the leveraging and, when it goes wrong, the deleveraging currency, and is a proxy for the risk-off attitude. At the moment, it is moving lower into its corrective targets, which are between 113.70 and 106.56. It is only a correction for now, and also here we will not call a full-fledged bear market until we move below these corrective targets. Over the next quarter or so, we believe that there's still a bit of downside, and once this is achieved, we could see a resume uptrend towards the second half of the year. Now the daily is also still negative, and its targets are pointing back towards 112.60, possibly below 110 down to 109. We are in a slight correction sideways at the moment, but the downtrend would still be in place. The hourly has attempted to correct up, but in general, the correction up has deceived. it has remained below its corrective targets and seems like it wants to roll over again into a resumed downtrend. This is not quite the case yet. We're still in a corrective up. And if at some point the risk-on attitude was to come back, it would really be confirmed if we were able to make it back above the 116.49 level or 116.50. But at the moment, it has pretty much deceived and seems to be rolling over to the downside again. So with two bears and one bull, the situation is similar to the one we have on equity markets, meaning that we're in a correction down on the weekly chart, we're in an impulsive down, which doesn't seem quite over on the daily chart, and we're in a correction up on the hourly chart, and this correction up hasn't been really compelling up to now. Now looking at gold, gold is still in a longer term downtrend, but the least we can say is that this longer term downtrend is being tested at the moment. We had reached our targets and the gold has started to react. We were also very much oversold. In this situation, the daily chart is still in a very strong impulsive uptrend. And this impulsive uptrend doesn't seem quite over and could extend over the next few months towards 1276 up to above 1300. At the moment, the risk index is still in the middle of the range, so we could still have some room to move higher. On the hourly chart, we are getting a bit extended. We are looking at our impulsive 2 targets, which are our very extended targets. These would allow us to move above 1290, possibly above 1300, possibly 1323. Now at the moment, it seems like we're in a resume uptrend and that this move is likely over the next week or so. So to sum it up, we're still in a longer term bear on gold, but this longer term bear is very exhausted and it could be in the process of reversing. The daily and the hourly chart are showing strong momentum up with still some potential on the daily above 1300 possibly, and on the hourly the possibility to reach these 1300s over the next week or so. That's all for today. Thank you very much.